Back in 1995, a young man in China borrowed $300,000 from his family. He had lost both his parents before he turned 15 years old. With that money, he rented a warehouse and hired 20 workers. They started making batteries, the kind that power phones and toys. He named his company Build Your Dreams, BYD. Today, this same company makes and sells more electric cars than Tesla, more than Elon Musk's company, more than any company on Earth. And the most surprising part? BYD doesn't sell a single car in America, not one. The man's name is Wang Chuanfu, and this is the story of how a boy who lost everything built the biggest electric car company in the world, starting from nothing, betting on the future when everyone else thought he was crazy. What technology did they create that even Toyota and Tesla now want to buy? Why did Warren Buffett call Wang a combination of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch? And how did a Chinese company beat Tesla without ever entering America? This isn't just a business story. It's about a poor boy from a farm who made a promise to himself and then spent 30 years keeping it. Every decision he made, every risk he took, every moment the world laughed at him, it was all part of the same promise. The year was 1966. A baby boy was born in a small village in China. His name was Wang Chuanfu. He was the sixth of 8 children in a family that had almost nothing. They grew crops just to have enough food. Then tragedy came twice. Wang's father died when he was still a teenager. His mother died shortly after. Before he turned 15, both his parents were gone. He was a child with no money, no parents, and no clear path forward. His older brother stepped in. This brother sold bamboo crafts at local markets. Not to build a business, not to get rich, but specifically so Wang could stay in school. Every bamboo basket sold was another day of education for his younger brother. Wang understood what that sacrifice meant, and he didn't waste a single day of it. He carried the weight of his brother's sacrifice into every classroom, every exam, every sleepless night of study. That weight never left him, and it never stopped pushing him forward. Despite everything, Wang studied harder than anyone around him. He was exceptionally smart and eventually earned a master's degree in metallurgy, the science of metals and materials. After graduation, he took a job at a government battery research center in Beijing. There, he noticed something that would change everything. Japanese companies like Sony were making the best rechargeable batteries in the world. Chinese companies were producing cheaper copies, but the quality was poor. Wang saw the gap clearly. If someone could make batteries as good as Japan's but at Chinese prices, they would own the market. He had no factory, no equipment, no investors, no safety net. All he had was an idea, a borrowed dream, and the memory of everything he had already survived. So in 1995, he did something brave enough to terrify most people. Wang quit his safe government job. He went to his family and asked them to believe in him. They gave him $300,000. He took that money to Shenzhen, rented a warehouse, hired 20 workers, and started a company called BYD, Build Your Dreams. For a man who had lost his parents and grown up with nothing, that name wasn't marketing, it was a private promise. A message to his 15-year-old self standing at his parents' graves with nothing left. This company was the answer to that moment. This company was proof that the worst beginning does not determine the final destination. But immediately, Wang faced a problem that would have stopped most people. Japanese companies used expensive robotic systems to manufacture batteries. These systems cost millions of dollars. Wang didn't have millions. He had 20 workers and a warehouse, so he did something that the industry had never seen before. He trained his workers to do exactly what the robots did, by hand. He broke down every single manufacturing step into precise, repeatable human movements. His workers became human assembly machines. They worked with the accuracy of robots, but at a fraction of the cost. The result was extraordinary. BYD's batteries cost 40% less to produce than Japanese batteries, but the quality matched them completely. Wang had proven something important that day, something that would become the foundation of everything BYD would ever build. You don't need the most expensive equipment. You need the most intelligent way of doing things. Within 5 years, that philosophy would turn a 20-person warehouse operation into a global force. BYD grew at a speed that stunned the battery industry. Within 5 years, BYD captured 30% of the global rechargeable battery market. A company that started in a rented warehouse was now producing nearly one-third of a certain type of battery used worldwide. Companies like Motorola and Nokia were buying BYD's batteries for their phones. BYD had become the largest battery manufacturer in all of China. In 2002, BYD listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, raising the equivalent of $212 million. Wang now had real capital to work with. Most people expected him to expand the battery business. Instead, in 2003, Wang spent $74 million to buy a failing car factory called Qinchuan Automobile. The reaction was immediate and brutal. BYD's stock price dropped 20% in a single day. Financial analysts called it the worst decision Wang had ever made. Business journalists wrote that he had lost his mind. Why would a battery company buy a broken car factory? Investors called emergency meetings. Fund managers sold their shares in panic. The consensus was unanimous. Wang had made a catastrophic mistake that would destroy everything he had built. But Wang saw something nobody else could see. He understood that the future of cars was electric, and a company that already mastered batteries and also made the cars those batteries powered would have an advantage that no traditional car company could ever match. He wasn't buying a car factory. He was positioning BYD to own the next century of transportation. The investors were angry. The stock was down, and now Wang had to prove he could build cars from scratch. Wang faced a new challenge unlike anything before. He had a factory, but no automotive experience. No engineers who understood car manufacturing, no relationships with parts suppliers, nothing. Most companies in his position would have hired expensive engineers from established car brands. Wang took a completely different approach. He hired thousands of fresh college graduates, young engineers with no car industry experience and no preconceived ideas about how things had to be done. He gave them a simple instruction: take existing cars apart, learn how every single component works, then figure out how to build those components better and cheaper. This process, called reverse engineering, became BYD's university. Teams of young engineers dismantled cars piece by piece, studying every system, every connection, every material choice. Then they rebuilt those systems at lower cost. But Wang wasn't finished with his big ideas. He looked at the entire car industry and noticed something that bothered him deeply. Every major car company bought its parts from hundreds of different suppliers. Seats from one company, glass from another, electronics from another, engines from another. This created complexity, cost, and most importantly, vulnerability. Wang decided BYD would do the opposite. They would make everything themselves: seats, glass, plastics, chips, motors, paint, electronics, every component under one roof, controlled completely by BYD. The industry called this vertical integration. Experts called it impossible. Traditional car companies had spent 100 years building supplier networks precisely because making everything yourself was considered inefficient. Wang ignored them and kept building. Years later, when a global chip shortage in 2021 forced Ford, GM, and Volkswagen to halt production lines for months, BYD kept building cars without interruption. Because BYD made its own chips, the industry stopped laughing. In 2008, BYD did something that would define its entire future. The company launched the F3DM, the world's first mass-produced plug-in hybrid car, a vehicle that could run on both electricity and gasoline and be charged from a standard electrical outlet. While Tesla was just beginning to sell its first Roadster, an expensive sports car designed for wealthy buyers in California, BYD was already selling practical, affordable electric vehicles to ordinary people across China. Tesla sold a dream. BYD sold reality. And eventually, reality would win. That same year, something else happened that would change how the world saw BYD. Warren Buffett, the most respected investor in the world, bought 10% of BYD for $232 million. This was not a small speculative bet. This was one of the most admired investors in history, placing a significant portion of his firm's capital into a Chinese electric car company that most Western analysts had never heard of. Buffett said publicly that Wang Chuanfu reminded him of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch combined, a builder and a manager, an inventor, and an operator. That single statement reached every boardroom and investment fund on Earth. Suddenly, the company that Wall Street had ignored became the company Wall Street needed to understand. In 2009, the Chinese government launched a program placing BYD's E6 electric car as the official taxi in Shenzhen. Thousands of BYD vehicles began driving millions of miles across the city. Every kilometer became data. Every problem discovered became a solution implemented. BYD was testing its vehicles in real-world conditions at a scale that no laboratory could replicate. BYD was learning faster than anyone else, and it hadn't even created its most important technology yet. In 2020, BYD revealed something that changed the entire electric vehicle industry. They called it the Blade battery. The design was different from every battery that came before it. Instead of the standard rectangular modules most batteries used, BYD's cells were shaped like long, flat blades, packed tightly together in a way that used space far more efficiently. The results were remarkable. The Blade battery stored 50% more energy than comparable batteries of the same physical size. It cost 30% less to manufacture, but the breakthrough that truly shocked the industry was safety. BYD conducted a test that battery engineers around the world watched very carefully. They drove a nail completely through a fully charged Blade battery. In conventional lithium batteries, this causes what engineers call thermal runaway, a chain reaction that generates massive heat, fire, and sometimes explosion. The Blade battery didn't catch fire. It didn't even get dangerously hot. Engineers watching the test footage couldn't believe what they were seeing. A battery that could survive puncture without burning was something the industry had been chasing for decades. BYD had simply built it. Within months, Toyota wanted BYD's battery technology. Ford signed agreements to use it. Even Tesla entered discussions about incorporating Blade battery technology into some of its vehicles. The company that the entire car industry laughed at in 2003 was now the company the entire car industry was calling for help. And when the global chip shortage hit in 2021, BYD's vertical integration meant its factories kept running while competitors sat idle. Ford lost over $1 billion in revenue during the shortage. BYD reported record production numbers in the same period. Wang's decisions, the ones that seemed crazy at the time, had turned into the most defensible competitive advantages in the entire industry. In 2022, BYD made a decision that no major car company had ever made before. They announced they would stop making gasoline-powered cars. Permanently, not reduce, not phase out slowly, stop. Completely. Forever. From that point forward, BYD would produce only electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. Every engineer, every factory, every research budget, every strategic decision would point in one direction only. The contrast with Western car companies was stark. Ford, General Motors, and Volkswagen were all attempting to transition toward electric vehicles while simultaneously protecting their profitable gasoline car divisions. These companies had internal conflicts, electric teams and gasoline teams competing for the same resources, the same engineering talent, the same factory space. BYD eliminated that conflict entirely. There was no internal debate. There was no gasoline team. There was only one direction. The result became visible almost immediately. In 2023, BYD's total sales surpassed Tesla's pure electric vehicle sales for the first time. Western automotive journalists began writing headlines that a year earlier would have seemed impossible. A Chinese company was competing with Tesla. But competing wasn't the goal. Wang had never been interested in competing. He had always been interested in winning. In January 2026, the news reached every financial market and automotive publication on Earth simultaneously. BYD had officially dethroned Tesla. The numbers were unambiguous. BYD sold 2.26 million electric vehicles in 2025. Tesla sold 1.64 million. BYD's sales grew 28% year over year. Tesla's sales declined 9% in the same period. The electric vehicle crown had a new owner. But the detail that made this victory truly remarkable wasn't in those numbers. BYD achieved all of this without selling a single car in the United States. Tesla's home country is its second largest market. BYD conquered the global electric vehicle race using only Europe, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. BYD's European sales quadrupled in 2025. Tesla's European sales fell 30% in the same year. BYD sold over 1 million cars outside China for the first time, 150% more than the previous year. New BYD factories were under construction in Hungary, Brazil, and Thailand. The company had announced plans to sell 1.5 million vehicles outside China in 2026. The message for Tesla was clear. BYD had beaten them without even entering their home market. If the tariff barriers blocking BYD from America ever came down, the competitive situation would become far more serious. The boy who lost his parents at 15 watched the numbers come in from his office in Shenzhen. BYD had sold 2.26 million cars. He didn't hold a press conference celebrating the victory. He didn't give interviews about what it meant to beat Elon Musk. He announced the next factory, the next target, the next dream. That is who Wang Chuanfu is. The victory was just another starting point, but beneath the sales triumph, BYD's financial reports told a more complicated story, one that revealed the real challenge still facing the company. BYD's 2025 revenue reached $116 billion, surpassing Tesla's $94.8 billion for the first time. In revenue terms, BYD had become the larger company, but BYD's profits fell 19% to $4.7 billion, the first profit decline since 2021. The reason was a brutal price war inside China. Over 100 electric vehicle companies were fighting for Chinese consumers by cutting prices lower and lower. When every competitor drops their price, every company makes less money on every car sold. BYD was selling more cars than ever and making less money on each one. Wang's strategic response was straightforward. Sell more cars outside China, where competition was less intense and prices could remain higher. International markets offered better profit margins. The expansion into Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America wasn't just about growth. It was about protecting BYD's financial health. Not everyone celebrates BYD's rise without reservation. Critics point to significant Chinese government subsidies that helped BYD survive its difficult early years, subsidies that American and European competitors didn't receive. Western governments have responded by adding tariffs of 40% or more on Chinese electric vehicles, specifically to slow BYD's expansion into their markets. Questions about labor conditions in BYD's manufacturing supply chain remain largely unanswered in international media. The rise is real, the achievement is genuine, but the full story is more complicated than the sales numbers alone suggest. Every empire has shadows, and BYD's shadows are only now beginning to receive serious scrutiny. BYD is not standing still while these challenges develop. In April 2026, BYD unveiled what it called the Super E platform, a charging system capable of adding 400 kilometers of driving range in just 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That is faster than most people can fill a gasoline tank. This technology addresses the single biggest concern that has prevented millions of consumers from switching to electric vehicles. Range anxiety, the fear of running out of power far from a charging station, has been the most persistent obstacle to mass EV adoption. The car industry shifted from America to China not through government policy alone. It shifted because one man from a poor farming village understood something about the future that the established industry refused to see. Electric vehicles were not a niche product for wealthy environmentalists. They were the future of all transportation. And the company that committed to that future completely, with no retreat, no hedge, no gasoline fallback, would win. BYD committed completely, and BYD won. But Wang Chuanfu would not call this winning. He would call it progress, because the Super E platform is not finished. The factories in Hungary and Brazil are not yet at capacity. The 1.5 million overseas vehicles planned for 2026 have not yet been delivered. The profit margins have not yet recovered to where Wang wants them. The rise of BYD is not a story with a final chapter. It is a story that is still being written by the same man who started it in the same way he has always operated, by seeing what the world will need before the world knows it needs it, and building it anyway, while everyone else says it's impossible. From a $300,000 loan to $116 billion in revenue. From 20 workers in a warehouse to the world's largest electric car maker. From a boy who lost his parents at 15 to the man who changed the future of transportation forever. This is not just a success story, it is proof that the most powerful force in business is not money, not technology, and not government support. It is someone who has already survived the worst thing that can happen to them.